The episode you're about to hear is authorised by me, Kate Hulett, at 106 High Street Mall, Fremantle. Our campaign seems so joyful and full of love, and it actually feels like it's really triggered a really gorgeous response from people, being quite shocked by how loving the campaign is. And it's kind of reassuring to think that maybe people are turning away from the meanness and turning toward kindness and openness and, all the rest of it. Welcome to
A Piece of Kate
with
Emma Pegram
and Kate Hulett. We are in rustly beautiful eucalypt trees.
We are.
In Bibra Lake today, on the edge of Bibber Lake, which is a bit more Bibra Creek.
Not so lakey
currently
at the moment. Not so much water.
But the sounds are nature. We're in the sounds of nature, and I currently have my hand on a tree and gripping it.
You actually can't stop holding the tree.
I like it.
It's quite cute.
Yeah.
It is
what a bloody tree hugger.
Monday afternoon. Easter Monday afternoon.
Easter Monday.
And we haven't done days till the election the last few episodes, and I've completely lost track.
I mean, we've had so many emails asking us
what
about
would we
it.
say, like 16 days?
Less.
15?
Way less.
It's next Saturday.
Yeah.
So
Way less.
15-ish days.
Yeah. Write in with your feedback on days to the election chat with Emma Pegram.
Well, I'm only pointing that out because it's really close. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so
we are in Bibber Lake. We just went for a walk around the lake with a group of amazing volunteers who've also taken off with a bunch of flyers to go and finish off the
in
flyering this
hindsight,
morning.
we did that the wrong way. We walked around the lake, which is about 6 Ks, and then we were like,
walk.
hey, surprise, we need you to go more walk.
They all loved it.
And in a suburb not near here. Anyway, they were angels, and we had 2 dogs, and we looked through the bird looking hutch.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
And there were 2 ladies with long lens cameras.
Taking photos.
And we stomped past them and scared every living bird away.
Sorry, bird.
Including them.
Ladies. But we had some chats along the way.
Flippin' nice, yeah, really nice.
One particularly memorable conversation.
Well, I mean, both conversations were memorable, but, I mean, maybe I shouldn't use his name. He stopped and had a chat, and he was a really lovely man who, his first thing he said to me was, I'm not voting for you because you believe in climate change. I'm a right-wing conservative. And I was like, whoa, hi. He goes, my wife's voting for you, though. And then we just actually had a really nice chat, and he... by the end, he was going to vote for me, which is a really great outcome and shows the power of conversation.
Totally.
But I said to you afterwards, Emma, how if we were conversing online, he would come across as angry, mean, and difficult. But in person, he was, very heart-led and chirpy, and he was almost saying the things to provoke me. But that's my... that's how I flirt. So I didn't leave. I bobbed down next to him and gave him a sticker, obviously.
Well, yeah, we were talking about how if you were conversing online, both sides would be getting more hardened in their kind of
position.
In their position, thank you. And that would be not productive for either side.
No, but face to face, it was nice.
But he was an interesting cat for someone who, introduced themselves as being a far right-wing conservative. He then went on to say that he was not loving Trump, not loving Dutton.
Liked the first term of Trump, didn't like current term of Trump. But he said, climate change isn't real. And then he said, there's too many people in the world, immigration's ruined everything. So I said, so you think there's too many people and that's causing the climate to change? And he was like, well, yeah. And I said, so you do believe in man-made climate change? So we kind of, just with a quick circular conversation, we got to the same point of view. But, I absolutely disagreed with him on most of the points that he raised. But we had a nice conversation about it. And that's, as I said to him, humanity. Of course we're going to disagree on stuff. But it's nice to be able to disagree face-to-face and leave giving each other stickers and showing pictures of dogs and, on your phone and stuff, which is how our conversation ended. And off he went on his day. And then where we're sitting at the moment is a little boardwalk out over the Bibber Lake, the Bibber Lake. And
little lookout.
there were a couple of guys just having a look out at the lookout when we walked down here, and we were chatting, and one of them said how Bibber Lake, when he was little, was, obviously full of water, which would have been 4 metres deeper than it is now or something. And he was quite shocked about that. But, yeah, we had a nice talk as well about cost of living, housing. Again, we probably had quite different views about some of that stuff, but they were very open to chat and chirpy and lovely and happy to be here. Just like me right now. How about
Chirpy
you?
and lovely.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, me too.
So, did you see... This is a
hard segue.
Segue. Is there anything else to say about the people walking? No.
No. Did I see what?
I just saw on my phone as we started recording the picture of the truck that got stuck under the bridge.
Oh, that is so good. You sent it to me earlier. Whose truck?
It was the Liberals getting back on track.
I think it was one of the trucks that said, weak woke sending us broke, wasn't it?
I don't know. But it was just a nice little metaphor of the Liberal
it literally got stuck
campaign.
Going under an overpass.
It looked like
it was wedged.
A flashback to the Bayswater Bridge.
Yeah, but it was
the
very
good old
Bayswater
days.
Bridge coded.
Yeah. Anyhow, it made me think about
where the Liberals are at.
The campaign that they've been running has been a bit shoddy magoddy, I think, overall, if you were going to rate them.
Shoddy magoddy out of 10.
Less, even.
I don't know where that comes from.
It's a classic rating system. You probably didn't go to the same university that I did.
Yeah, well, they've run maybe a campaign with a few holes in it. We can talk because we're experts at campaigning. We've done it a lot. We've done. This is not our first rodeo. It's our second. So we know a thing or two. But
what does it mean?
Well, it looks like the people are not vibing them, basically.
Yeah.
We're looking at some polling. I mean, polling's obviously getting updated
minute by minute
over time. And as we get closer and closer to election day, it's more and more evident that the Australian people are not buying what Peter Dutton is selling. To me, making it all the more kind of important how we think about Fremantle as a potential independent seat, that can hold a potential Labor, hopefully minority government to account.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's lots of things to talk about here, and perhaps we do a bit more of this in tomorrow's, but it isn't a benefit if there is a majority government. That's not a beneficial outcome for us all. But it is really beneficial if we have a minority government with a really strong crossbench. And I think, I wrote about this the other day, how, of course, the major parties would be going, it's awful, it'll be so destabilising. And then you see people starting kind of repeating those lines, because that's obviously then kind of repeated in the press, and it won't be an unstable situation and it won't be chaotic. It will be better for individuals because it is more representative of the people, and all representatives across Australia want the best for their areas. And we're not that different, as we keep saying. We just need the laws to be better and the legislation to be more reflective of all of us and not just certain areas.
More opportunity for scrutiny. I thought it was really interesting. I sent you a clip, maybe a week ago or so now, of Albo speaking about the Gillard government.
In the upcoming election, the polling indicates both major parties will struggle to get a majority. How do you feel about the prospect of the growth in a more diverse political arena in Australia? And what does that look like to you post-election if you cannot achieve majority government?
We very much seek a majority government. And I was here during Julia Gillard's government that I'm very proud of. I think it was a very good government. But the truth is that it laid the groundwork, the political instability for Tony Abbott's rise in 2013, and that led to, almost a decade of Australia going backwards on the key things that I want to achieve here: climate action, social equity, gender equity. All of those issues went backwards.
That's really interesting, given my understanding of that 2010 minority government was that Julia Gillard had the highest rate of passing legislation of any prime minister in history.
I was leader of the government in the House during that period. And it's true that we got a lot of legislation through. But it is also the case that the feeling in the community was that it wasn't a stable government. The culture led to Tony Abbott winning, more than 80 seats at the next election. We ended up with 40-something. So I think that Australians do have that view about government and stability. Well, I think the rise of many of the independents has been in part because of the coalition shift to the right. So I suspect that many of those independents who've been elected will be re-elected to Parliament. I get on very well with a whole range of the crossbenchers, but there won't be formal agreements. And I'm very determined to lead a majority government because I think that is how you get stability.
To be honest, I don't think there's much in that really as an argument. I don't you're basically just calling your own government, your own party incapable of having operated in a in a minority setting, which I get is part of his pitch because he wants to form a majority government.
Well, you've got to come up with something, And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how he would have got to that argument and gone,
seems like a winner.
That's the answer.
It's just trying to scare people, I think.
A lot of the party politicians are saying, well, how would we possibly ever come up with anything if there's all people from not in the parties? It's crazy. But, I think about even, if you think about a big organisation and there's the heads of department for different teams, I'm just my brain goes back to the London Underground and there's people that are managing the signals and the tracks and the comms and the stations and the blah, 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 blah. All those heads of department, which you can imagine as MPs, they're not all fighting with each other. They're working for the greater outcome of the tube or whatever it might be, And everyone's been in businesses where you negotiate to go, well, we need some more money here or that needs to integrate better with this. And if you do that, that's going to have a knock-on effect here. But that's just how we are negotiating beings and we all have to work on the greater good for the outcome for us all. And that's just how it's always been. And it's certainly not like every MP gets in and then has to have a fist fight with each other to make the country work better. It's just it's actually a really kind of cruel way of looking at things. And also it really undermines all the community independents who have been chosen by their community because the community is so fed up with their representation. It's like the party members saying, well, you guys are idiots because I'm the best you're going to get. And the community said, well, we don't think that, and that's why we've done this. So, it's quite a layered thing to look into, but but I saw someone say, well, what have independents done in the last 3 years? But it's been a Labor government, so they've been the ones that have been leading on the legislation and stuff like that. And of course, there's probably 100 examples of laws or legislation that either the independents have come up with that the parties have taken on as their own, or they've strengthened. That's how Parliament works. We have a lower house and an upper house, so that a law is evaluated by everyone in the lower house, and then once they've said, yeah, we're happy with it, it goes to the upper house, and then it gets evaluated by all the people in the upper house. So it's the design of government is that there is lots of scrutiny. So it's actually no different. What's different is currently the Liberal Party and the Labor Party are told how to vote. So there is no scrutiny because they're just told what to do. So it's, as I keep saying, it will be better for us all if there is more eyes on the legislation and the laws and the bills that are put up, because it'll make them better for us. So, we've talked about the major parties having to vote as a bloc. And we've heard about major party individuals who have opinions who may, differ from how the party's voting. But of course, there's influences from outside of the party about how these people vote. And we saw the gambling thing last year, the gambling advertising. There was a, what are they called? A parliamentary
Inquiry
group to look into that and the impacts, and it's absolutely devastating. And the advice is, ban gambling advertising. There is no positive to it. It was cross-partisan kind of agreement from the, I can't think of the word, but it's a group of MPs that, look into it.
The committee.
Yeah, and the advice wasn't taken by the party because they have big donations from the gambling industry and the hoteliers and all those people who kind of benefit from gambling money. We see it enormously here in WA because our government is captured by fossil fuel companies, particularly gas, and their decisions are made almost entirely on behalf of the gas. They could be written by the gas companies to benefit them. And the nature positive laws are a huge example of that complete failure to do what's right for the country, but to do what's right for big business and donors. And, it's funny how many people go, where are your donations coming from? And it's, people. But for the big parties, the majority of their money does not come from small donations like ours. It comes from
big business,
corporations. And, they donate a bit and then they get a whole law written that benefits their absolute slaughtering of the land and raking in profits. And that is something that is one of the biggest benefits of independent representation, is that the independents are not working on behalf of corporations, developers, fossil fuel companies. They don't have someone in their office effectively telling them how to vote at the next, session in Parliament.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting when you speak to people at the local level who maybe are involved with the parties. And I mean, we just happen to speak to, I guess, I'll hear from a lot more Labor people because it's a Labor seat. And there's still a real belief in the democratic process taking place within the parties. And it just kind of baffles me because it's like when you zoom out and you look at the bigger picture, it's just so self-evident in so many ways that decisions are not being made with the best interests of people in mind. And no matter what process might be going on behind closed doors, which, we don't necessarily know because we don't get to see it, there's so much evidence of the captured interests.
I mean, you could track it through the last 40 years easily.
And it's interesting because a lot of those people will say to you, oh, you can't work democratically as an independent because you don't have the party, process to get consensus on outcomes and blah, 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 and put policy forward and all the rest of it. But that to me is completely antithetical to the truth,
Yeah, I mean, the MPs...
Working directly with your community.
The MPs currently say we do represent our community and we take the voices in, and that may be true, but then there's another bigger, more wealthy voice that also has more... A duck just flew past, it's fine. Guys, chill out. God, Emma, calm down. Okay. Sorry, my heart's racing, can you hear it? The MPs may have one vote each, but then there is these big corporations that might have 100 votes. The weight of their influence is far greater than the weight of the individual communities. And by putting a community representative in who isn't going to be influenced by those outside forces, we will definitely have better outcomes. Because we can't be making the whole, place just so big businesses can make money, I'm listening to the Gina Rinehart series by The Guardian at the moment and just tracking how Lang Hancock was influencing government and now, then she started too and you can see it happening then, you can see it happening now, you can see how the companies buy into the media and then the media starts influencing who's going to be voted in next and big circle thing. All of us are a circle thing. That was to avoid saying a rude word, but now everyone's thinking about it. But now, at no point in that situation are the community or individuals consulted or cared about or represented at all. Media, mining, corporations, developers get gas, circle, 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 circle.
Yeah.
And then we're like, why is our rich country not being reflected in my life? You know?
Yeah, and there's got to be something that breaks that cycle.
Independence.
I think it's interesting, and we mentioned this the other day after the debate, that the line that Josh Wilson is running with quite a lot is this one of, I don't think, even Kate imagines like a situation where there's 151 independents in Parliament. Like he keeps going back to that, which again is another scare tactic because of course we're not talking about 151
we just need one.
Fremantle's just asking for
I'm
one.
just paying attention to this.
But obviously there are lots running and, it could potentially be a large crossbench. It already is like quite a significant crossbench. But it does to me, it strikes me that even people coming from non-major parties, like we have conversations, say, with people from some of the minor parties who really struggle to think about a system where, like, they struggle to, I guess, understand what the role of the independents is. And, you even went on the Serious Danger podcast and there was a lot of conversation around that.
Yeah.
Just a lack of kind of understanding that it is actually sort of a different job to being in a party.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you want to be in a party, that's different, and I think every independent has said no to the job numerous times because they don't want to be in politics. They don't want to be in a party. They don't want to do all that stuff that, entails starting at the bottom and then, working your way up through the ranks to be leader or, head of an area, whatever. Independents are there only to represent their community, and I said that on Serious Danger. I was like, Emerald was saying, but you could go in and represent the Greens, and and in the Greens we have all these little divisions, little groups, subgroups to represent, people with disabilities or people from different backgrounds, whatever. And I said, but I'll be representing Fremantle like it's that is the party. That is my party, is Fremantle. And yes, within the Fremantle, the division of Fremantle, there will be little groups which are, disability advocates or, sporting or whatever it might be that's relevant. And for me, that made perfect sense. My party is Fremantle. I don't need to worry about the party in the Northern Territory or in,
what they're doing nationally,
Queensland or what the agendas are for a national, on a national stage. So it is interesting, and I get it. We've been brought up with that, and it's easier for us to think, particularly in dichotomies of Liberal and Labor, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it's always going to be. But that's been perpetuated by the media, who are taking the lines from the politicians, and it's all baked in to us. So we're just slowly chipping away at that. And also the proof's in the pudding. We'll see who gets voted in, and which of the independents are voted back in, and which have impressed or satisfied their communities, or which have disappointed, or whatever it might be. And you can also see where the major parties are spending their money as to wanting to win them back. Which ones are, I mean, the guy that I spoke to earlier he was like, I've not seen a single Liberal poster around Fremantle. And I said, well, they don't think they can win here, so they're not bothering spending any money here. But you'll notice the areas they want to win, or they think they can win, they're spending absolutely tons, buckets.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Almost just got whacked by a branch.
This is some ASMR. AMSR, whichever one it is. Okay. So in summary, we're in Bibra Lake and we spoke to a nice man called Bruce.
That's about it. And Dutton's losing. Sorry, Dutton. Sorry, Peter.
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't seem to have got a hook into the hearts and minds. Maybe I saw Paul Keating the other day saying how he's never worked with such a mean politician or seen such a mean politician. And that really struck me because our campaign seems so joyful and full of love, and it actually feels like it's really triggered a really gorgeous response from people, being quite shocked by how loving the campaign is. And it's kind of reassuring to think that maybe people are turning away from the meanness and turning toward kindness and openness and, all the rest of it.
Nice note to end on.
You're a nice note to end on.
Stop it, you.
Okay, back to business. Double donations, still happening.
Still happening for today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
And jump on the
Pre-poll
website.
opens
Pre-poll's
today.
opening.
It's Tuesday as you're listening.
Yeah.
You
could go and vote.
You could vote today.
Go and wave at our volunteers at the booths. And jump on the website. You can sign up to volunteer still.
What are the final volunteering jobs?
Election day, baby.
Yeah. So as we've said before, we need 18,000 people working for us on election day.
Correct. We need half of Fremantle.
Well, that's 3/4. 75% of Fremantle is coming out to help. And
That's the last push.
we've got hardly any time left before election day. Oh my God.
You only get like 14 more episodes of this absolute gold. It's sad for people.
It
Anyway,
is sad. Tuning out. At that note, we're
Like and subscribe on that note, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
and we're just going to add in 30 seconds of tree rustles now. So when you're driving to work, take a deep breath into the bottom of your lungs and out.
And cut.